Hi, you guys. Welcome to my channel. My name is Karen Odd, and these are Karen's Oddities. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Regardless, I do want to ask that you give this video a thumbs up, comment your thoughts below, even if you disagree with my content. And I also want to ask that you share this video and our channel with one person that you know, as I'm confident there is something here that both you and they can benefit from. In today's video, I want to talk a little bit about the how, specifically the how as it relates to how we end up in certain situations, how we reach certain conclusions, how we reach the end point in something. And I'll give a little bit of background of what prompted me to want to make this video. So I think I've mentioned previously, I work in grant administration or something along those lines. And in my work, oftentimes we're processing payments. And with these payments, sometimes they get complicated, right? There's like a retention, there's deductions, there's multiple account strings, multiple funding sources, and you have to break down the payment. Obviously, with any payment, there's a financial aspect, there's a math aspect. And I want to make a video about math, but that's a different conversation in a different video. So we had someone on our team that submitted a payment to me for review before it goes over to finance, and I reviewed it and I identified some issues with that payment. So it took me a minute to get there because it was complicated, right? You have a starting amount and then you have some deductions, you have some changes, then you have to break out that final payment into what it's truly supposed to be. So I'm messing with it back and forth, trying to make sure the math is correct. And before I send my request for what needs to be changed, I need to make sure I am 110% sure in what I'm asking, right? Because as a manager, if I'm asking someone to do something, one, I need to be able to be clear on what I'm asking. I need to be correct. And I also need to be able to provide support on what I'm asking for. So at some point, I looked at it back and forth. I cut it different ways, etc. I went back, I went over my work, and it ultimately I landed on the numbers that I needed. So I sent my request to her and her manager, and we were all sitting in a room because we were working in person. Immediately, because we had some downtime, she came up to me to, she brings her laptop, and I know what it's about already because it's frustrating, right? It's frustrating when you put something together, you send it out, you think it's ready to go, and it gets kicked back for corrections. And it's even more frustrating when you don't understand what those things are that are needed. Even though I outlined it in my email. I need XYZ to happen because XYZ, the ultimate amount would be XYZ. So she comes over and she's like, hey, I wanted to talk about XYZ payment. Do you have a minute? I didn't really have a minute, right? Because I was working on other things, but it's important, again, to sit with her and talk through it. So I went over it. And then, I asked her manager to come over as well so that we could all talk about it together and making sure that she understood it as well. And if not, then setting up time for them to collectively try to understand what happened. So we went back and forth, and she's like, well, that's not right because XYZ. Sorry about that. I just had to pause it because my dog started going crazy, but rightfully so. Some man just walked up to my door and started knocking on my door. And I appreciate both of my dogs. They're so great, and they keep me safe and protected and alert me if anyone is near. Dogs are amazing. And I just sat here while he knocked on the door because I'm not expecting company or anybody. So whatever he needs, he can leave it on my door. Anyway, back to my video. So manager comes over. We're all talking about it. None of us are on the same page, right? I have my interpretation, they have their interpretation. So that her manager said, you know what, I'm going to take this payment and I'm going to look at it, I'm going to dissect it, and I'm going to see if I draw the same conclusion as you. I said, well, did you look at my email? Because I have there the breakdown of what it is. I guess my key is like, I want to understand, because sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes we're all wrong, right? Like I'm not always going to have the right answer. I'm not always going to be perfect. And I recognize that, and I've had mistakes. And when I've had mistakes and been called out, I can honestly say I was wrong. And I'll put that in my email. Like I was wrong. I messed up. I did XYZ. And I'll also explain what made me incorrect, like what made my judgment incorrect, what made my call incorrect. That's important as well. Admitting when you're wrong. So she said, I'm going to take a look. And I was like, okay, you can be the third party, like the third, because sometimes we can have two different answers. I'll bring in a third person, whether it's going to be her or it's going to be my manager, to tell me like who's accurate here and who's wrong. And sometimes, guess what? None of us are right, right? And that third person has an even third interpretation, and they are the one that's the final answer. So when this happened, when the situation happened, I'll get to the end of that situation, then I'll talk more about what the purpose of this video is. So, her manager went and did the math, and then she comes back to me. And at this point, they're both coming to, and I'm just like, I don't really want to talk about it unless you have a different answer than me, which I know is not the right approach. But I knew that ultimately her manager was going to take the time to talk her through it because I had already done that and we didn't get anywhere. And sometimes that's the case. You talk through things with people and they don't see your point. They don't see your point, but it takes time, right? It takes time for people to learn and understand what you're trying to say or what you're trying to convey. So at some point, the manager comes back to me and she's like, you were right, I did the math and blah blah blah, and she had like all these notes written down, and then we all came together and then we sat with a person that had prepared the payment. She still didn't understand it. So at this point, both of us have gone over it with her, and I'm done. Like mentally, like I'm like, okay, I can't keep going over the same thing. Like I tried, and as you know, also like math is not my strong suit. I've said that a million times, and maybe I need to stop saying that. But because it's not my strong suit, I find that there are only so many ways that I can explain it. So her manager decided to sit with her beyond that couple of meetings that we had, like they were short meetings, and explain it to her in full. And then at the end of the day, she came over to me and she's like, I got so and so to understand it. Like she now understands why you rejected the payment. She now understands why you broke it out this way, why the amounts weren't matching, and why we decided or needed to do it this way, which was great. Like I was happy and relieved because it was a conversation I was going to ask her to have anyway. Because to the point of this video, I think a lot of times we're so focused on getting to a final point in our lives or getting to a final outcome of a situation. We become so like outcome focused that we forget to take time to lay out the steps of how we're going to get there, or we forget to take time to reflect on how we got there, right? Like sometimes we're aiming for things and we're just so focused on like that final thing that we're not realizing all the steps that we're missing to get there, or all the steps that we could incorporate to make it easier for us to get there. And alternatively, sometimes we end up in situations that are not favorable, that are not what we wanted. And we're there and we're sitting in that moment and we're disappointed and we're upset. And we're upset at like the outcome, but we don't take time to think about those steps. Like the how of how we got there, the how of how we ended up there, the how of how we were unsuccessful in that, in running that marathon, or how we were unsuccessful in landing that job, or how we were unsuccessful in that friendship, in that relationship, or how we ended up, not we, because I'm not, but how some of us ended up getting a DUI, or whatever that thing is that's like, oh shoot, like this really sucks. We get stuck on like the final outcome, but we don't take time to reflect and think about how we got there. There's always that saying of like, hindsight is 2020, right? Like if I knew then what I know now, which is always going to be the case. We're not going to know everything, but I do think it's important to remember to try to take time to like backtrack and plan out those steps. Anytime, especially when you're trying to accomplish something, it's key to be intentional about what actions you're taking to get there. I often have talked about like when I want to like manifest things or bring things into my life. And if you're familiar with like manifestation or you've watched other videos on it, yeah, you can write it down. You can write something down. I have my little purse here. Like I have things written down. I have 2 lists in here. Because I have this like short list of like 3 goals that I have that I keep in my purse. Specifically, this I took from Think and Grow Rich by Neville Goddard. He says to write down 3 goals that you want to achieve. He says to keep them in your pocket because this was back when like it was men and only men. This book was not written for women, but I keep them in my purse or in my wallet. So the idea is like, if it was in my pocket, which I don't always have pockets because I wear dresses, when you put your hand in there, like you touch it and it reminds you of like those things that you want. He also talks about those 3 things that you write down, to read them every day in the morning and then to read them before you go to sleep. And I mean, that book is really good, by the way. I need to read it again. I think I've read it twice at this point. But Think and Grow Rich by Neville Goddard. In his book, he also talks about not just writing out the goal, but explaining breaking down the steps of how you're going to get there, and then also in that listing what you're going to give in return to receive this, because everything is like energetic, right? You can't just ask for things and expect to receive and not give something in return. So this is one that I keep. Do I read it like I'm supposed to every day and night? No. And then I keep this other list with me, which is a list of like everything I want in my future, like husband, partner. I keep that one as well. I keep them together, and I keep them in my purse, my wallet. Not the point. My point is, when it comes to like manifesting or like things that we want, you can write it down. You can read it every morning. You can put it under your pillow. You can put it in your underwear, whatever you think is going to help you. But just identifying what that final destination is, what that final goal of yours is, and not taking the steps or outlining the steps to actually get there, you're really only doing 10% of it. The 10% is identifying what you want, identifying what that final outcome is, and the 90% is doing the work. The 90% is being intentional. The 90% is doing your research. The 90% is understanding what is it going to take to get there, understanding who you need to talk to, who you need to meet with, understanding what you need to do consistently every single day to become the type of person that has that thing. What is the type of person that has that job? What is the type of person that has that body? What is the type of person that has that relationship? What do they do consistently, day in and day out? You know, almost like faking it till you make it. What are the things that you are doing to become the person that is aligned with that goal and thing that you want? That's the how. That's the how that I think we often miss. I had a booger coming in. I don't know if you guys saw it, and if you did, I'm so sorry. But that's the how that I think oftentimes people forget about, and they just keep moving on, right? Another benefit of understanding the how, not only does it help you get there, and it helps you get there faster, in those situations where you end up in a situation that you're not happy about, it helps your brain understand what you did to get there so that you don't do it again. We go back to that hindsight is 2020. If I knew then what I know now. If you go back to moments where you were disappointed in the outcome, if right now you were in a situation where you are not satisfied with your life, where you're not satisfied with an aspect of your life, you need to retrace your steps to understand how you got there. You need to retrace your steps to understand what were all the actions or inactions that you took that led you here. What were the mistakes that you took that led you here? What were the moments that you procrastinated a little bit too much, or that you said the wrong thing or didn't speak up, or that you took the wrong choice or action or turn, etc. It's important so that you don't end up in those situations again, so that you can learn from them. Obviously, it's important if you're someone like me to not get stuck there, to not get stuck in the how, to not dwell there. As someone that is like super analytic and loves understanding, I just love understanding things and people. I can get really hung up in the details of the how, right? Like that payment that I was looking at. Like I looked at it for a minute, but I needed to, because I need to be sure about what I'm saying before I say it. But it is important, if you are in a situation that you're not satisfied with, when you go back to reflect, don't get stuck in the how. Go back, retrace your steps, understand what you could have potentially done differently, and make note of that. Make a mental note of that. Make a mental note to like reduce doing that thing. Or when you think you're going to do that thing, then set something to like trigger you or to remind you, whether that's an alarm in your phone, whether that is a sticky note on your mirror, whether that's keeping a rubber band and like pulling it every time you're taking an action that you don't want to, whether that's talking to someone that's going to help hold you accountable, whether that's going to therapy, whether that's going to a specific program, whatever the thing is that you want to reduce doing, there are mechanisms that you can put in place to help align you better, and to help keep you from making those negative decisions and choices. And I'm not saying that if you take time to review past experiences that you're not going to make mistakes again, or that we're not going to end up in situations that we didn't really want. We're always going to do that. That's life. That's human nature. That's human error. We're here and we're going to make mistakes, and we're always going to make mistakes. But it helps increase your awareness, which is key. It helps increase your awareness of your patterns. It helps increase awareness of your shortcomings. It helps increase your awareness of where your skills may be lacking. It helps increase awareness of what are some of the things that you fear. that contribute to the way you act and behave and contribute to the situations that you find yourself in, right? It's about creating awareness for yourself to ultimately make life a little bit easier for you. That's what the key is here. I think I covered most of what I wanted to say in this video. So let me know your thoughts. Yeah, let me know your thoughts on this video and subject, and I will make a video regarding the math subject, which I also came into play this past week because I've been having a lot of human interaction, which is great because I need that. Um, and just a lot of thoughts around math. And then I met some mathematician and we had some conversations about math as well. So I won't make that video today because I need to get ready. My brother's coming over and he's going to help me with some things in the house. So yeah, I think that I'll leave this video here and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching.